Okay guys, so today I'll be giving you guys a test review. So how I decided to create this test review is I decided to go over the skills that's going to be on the test and to go over like different types of questions that you may see on your test and how to answer them. All right, so let's dive right in. So let's look at number one. Number one is a multiple choice question, which means that only one answer is correct. All right, so let's read over it. A box of pens contain only red pens and blue pens. The ratio of the number of pens to the total number of pens in the box are, let me reread that. The ratio of the number of red pens to the total number of pens in the box is 1:4. Which of the following statements cannot be true about the pens in the box? So just like I discussed in my lesson review videos, I always like to annotate my questions first. So we're going to start off by circling the question, and I'm going to circle that in orange. It says, which of the following statements cannot be true about the pens in the box? So if you're a person who reads through questions quickly on the test, this question may trick you up because oftentimes people ask to look for the true statement and not the one that's the false. So I'm also going to highlight that word cannot be true because that is a key word. We want to make sure we're looking for the false statement in order to get the correct answer. So then I'm going to go back to my question and I want to underline some important information that can help me answer my question, which is the box only contains red and blue pens, and the ratio of red pens to the total number of pens in the box is 1:4. Now, studying that ratio, that means that for every one red pen, there is 4 pens total. How did I know? Because in the question it's saying that it's from the number of red pens to the total number of pens in the box. So let's look at our answer choices. A, for every red pen, there are 4 blue pens. B, for every 5 red pens, there are 15 blue pens. C, there are 60 pens in the box, 15 are red. D, if there are 24 pens in the box, 18 are blue. So keep in mind that I am looking for the answer choice that is false, okay? Not the one that is true. So let's look at A. A says for every red pen, there are 4 blue pens. So looking at that ratio, it says 1 red pen to 4 pens total. It didn't say 4 blue pens, but how many blue pens would I have if I have 1 red pen? So let's keep in mind that the total, and I'm going to write that down, the total is describing both red and blue pens. So if they're saying there's 1 red pen and 4 total pens, how many blue pens would I have? If you guessed 3 pens, you're absolutely correct. So there would be 3 pens. So this statement, for every red pen there are 4 pens are blue. So I'm not gonna finish, I'm not gonna just go to the next question. I want to check my other answer choices, but I think that my answer choice is A. Okay? But I want to check my other answer choices to make sure they're true just in case, okay? So let's look at question B, or choice B. I'm sorry about that. For choice B, it says for For every 5 red pens, there are 3 blue pens. Now, we've already discussed that there is 1 red pen and 3 blue pens. How do I know? Just a friendly reminder, for every 1 red pen, there are 4 pens total. There's only red and blue pens in the box, which means that there are 3 blue pens out the total. So for this ratio, it says 5 to 15 blue pens. Okay, so the ratio would be 5, which I'm gonna write it in blue. The ratio would be 5 to 15, describing red to blue pens, okay? So I want to either decide whether this ratio can reduce down to 1 to 3, or can I make both parts equal to these parts to see if these are equivalent ratios. So I'm going to show you guys the way I can multiply this ratio to see if both quantities will be equal to this quantity. And then for the next choice, I'm going to show you guys a different way. So what I mean by making both quantities equivalent to this ratio is that I want to multiply red pens by 5. Why? Because I'm making the quantity the same. One thing about ratios, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other side. So if I multiply the red pens by 5, I want to multiply blue pens by 5. So when I multiply both by 5, which it would be 5 red pens, and I'm going to put R for red, and 15 blue pens, that means that this ratio is in fact true. Now keep in mind that I am looking for the false statement. Okay, so this one is true. So then the next choice says that if there are 60 pens in the box, 15 are red. So this one, the order may be different. It's trying to trick you, but the order is different because in the ratio is going from red to total of pens, but this question is going from the total to the red number of red pens. So what I want to do is I can either reduce this ratio or put it in the format that the question has it in. So I could say, and I'm going to write in black, I could say, okay, 15 red pens, 15 red pens to 60 red pens, or 60 pens total. I apologize. So I can reduce this down to make the ratio equivalent to this ratio or this ratio that's in the question. Well, if you guys don't know this, 15 is a factor of 60, which means that 15 could be divided into 60 equally, and 15 could be divided into 15 evenly as well. So when I reduce that or simplify that, so shall I say, I get 1 to 4, which means that this statement is true. Okay? Now moving on to the next one, it says, if there are 24 pens in the box, 18 are blue. Now this is also a tricky answer choice as well because you don't see the ratio of blue pens to the total. But we know, or if you did your math, you'll know that there's 3 pens to a total of 4 pens. So this would be the ratio for blue pens, which let's write that in blue, 3 to 4. So you could solve it whichever way you like. I could use multiplication, or I could reduce these numbers down or put them in the ratio format that the question has it in and simplify. But I'm just going to multiply for this case. 3 representing the blue pens, 4 representing the total pens in the box. So I want to see if there's a number I can multiply 3 by to get to 18. If you guess 16, you are absolutely correct because 3 times 6 is 18. 4 times 6 is 24. So the ratio would in fact be 18 to 24. Now, granted, is it in the order of the question? No, but if we put the order in from total to the number of blue pens, then it would be true as well. So now that I've checked all of my choices, I know for sure that my answer is correct. This is the correct answer because we're looking for the false statement. Now let's move on to the next question. Question 2. Now, question 2 says select all the ratios that are equivalent to the ratio 12:3. Explain how do you know? Now, this question has a bit of a flaw because there's no box to give you the opportunity to explain, so we're going to X that out. But typically when you see a question like this on a test, this is a multiple select question. Okay, there's more than one correct answer. It doesn't say how many, it just means that it's just more than one correct answer. Okay, so of course, like I told you guys, I love annotating my questions before I start even doing the math work, just to know what I'm looking for, what information I need to gather in order to answer this question. So one thing that I need to highlight in this question is the ratio. And we're looking for equivalent ratio, which that phrase equivalent means equal. Okay, a ratio that's equal to 12:3. So the ratio is 12:3. So I can either simplify it or I could just leave it like that. But in this case, I am going to simplify it. So my ratio is 12:3. And if I break it down to its factors, it will be 3:4 times 3:1. So these are the factors of 12 and 3. Do you see something that they have in common? I see the number 3, which means that I can get rid of that 3. Now my ratio is in its simplest form, which is 4:1. Do you see an answer choice that shows that it's 4:1 could be a choice? Yes, you can. This is the ratio right here. Now, before I move on, I want to study this ratio. Notice that the quantity on the right side is 1. So when I look at this choice A, I see that the quantity on the right side is 1. There is no way possible that the quantity on this side would be 1, and this could be 1, but the choice on the left side is not the same. So it could not be choice A. I hope I explained that well. If you didn't understand it, make sure you visit your manager's Google Meet today before taking the assessment. But if the quantity, which I'm going to put this in X to Y format, if the quantity Y is equivalent to 1, then quantity X must equal to 4 as well, but it didn't. Now let's look at choice B. Choice B is saying that it's 1:4. Now true, it's modeling the same numbers, but it's not in the correct order. And with ratios, order matters. So it wouldn't be choice B either. Now let's look at choice D. Choice D says 24:6. Now I can simplify this ratio to see if it simplifies to 4:1. So let's get started. Which I'm going to change my colors because I want you guys to be able to differentiate my notes. So 24:6. If I simplify this ratio or break it down to its factors, I could break down 24 to 4 to 6 and 6 to 1. Do you see a factor that they have in common that I could scratch out? If you said 6, you are absolutely correct. I could scratch out 6, and when I put it into ratio form, it's 4:1. So this is equivalent. Now, just like what I was saying in the with the other choices, if quantity Y is equal to 6, and in order for it to be equivalent, quantity X must be 24, then there's no way it could possibly be 15. So this one is not a correct answer. Now let's look at choice F. Choice F says 1,200 to 300. Now I want to show you guys a different way that you guys may be more familiar with, and I'm going to do this choice in green. Now this is a way that I most likely teach in my classroom. This is a quick way. I put 1,200 over 300, and I'm going to scratch out the numbers that match, and I'm going to show you guys what that means. So I have a 0 at the top and a 0 at the bottom, or a 0 in the numerator and the denominator, and I scratch that out. Okay, how do I know that's just a tens thing? Like, you can know that that's like me dividing by 10. So then I could scratch out the second 0. If I put the fraction back into ratio form, it's going to be 12 to 3. Well, this ratio matches the ratio in the question. So this is definitely an equivalent ratio. Now let's look at choice G. Choice G says that 112 to 13. Okay, now to me as a math teacher, it looks like this person is trying to trick the students because all they did was put a 1 in front of the quantities. But I still want to check it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide 13 divided by 3. And then I'm going to do 12 divided by 112. Now, for it to be considered an equivalent ratio, I have to get 4 to 1, okay? Now, if you're good in math, you probably already know that this is not going to be equivalent ratio, but I just want to show you guys the steps in how to figure it out. So when I divide 13 divided by 3, let's get 4, which I didn't even write in my pen. I don't know why I selected that choice. But it's going to be 4, which is 12. Oops. 1, and then I'm going to drop that 0 down. And it's going to be 3. And it's going to keep repeating it, which we didn't go over repeating decimals. Honestly, at this point, you could stop right here because the ratio doesn't include 4.3 as a decimal. So this wouldn't be an answer choice either.